Today, I'm going to show you how I made this Master Chief Armour. So how did I make this? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you. But before I do, I want to catch you up to speed on why I decided to make this project. Back in March of 2020, I found myself stuck at home like most people, and I decided to play Halo Combat Evolved for the first time. After a very slow but fun playthrough, I fell in love with the series. I loved the world design and the story, but the thing that drew me to this game the most was the character design, mainly Master Chief, the protagonist of the games. By June of the same year, I had played 6 Halo games, 4 of which I needed to borrow an Xbox 360 and a TV to play. As this happened, I found videos on YouTube by Impact Props and Blake Hull, who made their very own Master Chief suit. These people inspired me and made me see that I was capable to make something like this. With no plans for the summer because of everything being closed down, this was the perfect time to learn how to make a project as big as this one. So that's where we are now. I've decided to make the suit Master Chief wears in Halo 3, Mjolnir Mark 6 for you nerds out there, and I'm going to be making this thing out of foam. So I just went to the hardware store and grabbed some half-inch EVA foam, and I began to figure out the technique. The first pieces weren't so great, but eventually I figured out how to make a mostly decent piece. I got a template for my suit from the 405th, which is a fantastic site for learning how to build props and costumes from Halo, and I got to work. I had to scale the templates to fit me, and I did this in a program called Peppercure Designer, and then I printed them out. So these templates will allow me to create the general shape of the armor. I have to cut them out and trace them onto the foam mats, and then I can cut the geometry out and glue it together with contact cement. I reinforce the seams on the inside with hot glue, and I sand down the seams on the outside with a Dremel tool. I also fill in the gaps with quick seal. I also use reference pictures to cut shapes out of thinner foam to build up the details on the suit. And if you missed all that, don't worry, because you'll be able to see what I'm doing in the time-lapse footage. The next 5 minutes is going to represent 26 days of work, so it's sped up significantly. Here, you can see I cut out the template for my workpiece with a hobby knife. Then I trace it onto the foam with a Sharpie. Then I cut out all of the pieces. On some pieces, I have to cut a ridge on the opposite side of the foam so it can fold. Then I use contact cement to put it all together. My first piece wasn't so great, but that's because I didn't know most of the things I just told you. But that didn't stop me from trying again on day 2. I had much better luck on the second day. This time I did exactly what I told you, and I sanded down the seams with a Dremel tool to even them out. After that, I also used quick seal as a filler to completely get rid of those gaps. And that's basically what I did to make all of these pieces.
Sometimes it all falls apart and it tears up your heart and you feel like you got nowhere to go. Oh, you're dragging you.
You probably saw that I had to remake a few pieces. This forearm piece was my first piece ever, and it was really sloppy, so it became the test piece for this project. These two thigh pieces were scaled wrong because I didn't realize each file was a different size. And this chest piece, after I did all of the details and filling in the seams, I decided it was too small, so I had to remake it. After those couple of setbacks, all of the foam pieces have been made, but I still have to make some adjustments to make them fit me better. On the forearms and shoulders, I just cut out a piece and glued it back together, and that seemed to work. On the shin piece, I added foam to make it longer, and I also made cuts on all of the pieces to get them on and off easier. I'm also going to add Velcro and straps eventually to make them all wearable. Excellent! All of the foam pieces have been made, and I've added detail to all of them. But you might notice I didn't make the helmet out of foam. I figured the first thing most people will look at when they see this suit is the helmet, so I wanted to make sure it was spot on. And that's why I'm going to be 3D printing this helmet. I've made a few 3D printed helmets before, so this stage isn't anything new for me. Basically, what I need is a model. I got mine off of Thingiverse for free, pre-cut into 8 individual pieces, and all I have to do to print it is slice it in Cura. For those of you who aren't familiar with 3D printing, slicing is just turning a model into a set of instructions that a printer can understand. I'm going to be printing these pieces on my CR10 in white PLA. I'm going to use a layer height of 0.2mm and a speed of 50mm per second. I also use brim and support.
Our love is made of steel, lost us to the underground. Steady and surreal in a world of lost and found. Trust you at the wheel, know you'll keep us safe and sound.
To glue the helmet together, I'm going to use some CA glue, and then I'm going to go over all the seams on the inside with epoxy. You'll notice in a second that I have more than 8 pieces, but that's because I had some issues while I was printing and I had to stop the print and do the remaining portions separately. I'll be able to fill in all the gaps later, but first I have to glue the helmet together.
Love is
now the thing to do is to turn this uneven plastic helmet into a smooth helmet that I can paint. So to fill in the gaps, I'm going to use Bondo. To get rid of the imperfections and a lot of the print defects, I'm going to use some spot putty. And I'm going to use filler primer to get rid of all those print lines. I sand the whole helmet down after each one of these steps. I repeat each of these steps as much as I need, sanding down the helmet each time to get the helmet as smooth as I want. Before I go any further with this helmet, there's a couple of other pieces I want to print. For the suit, I want to print the hand plates, and I also want to print some detail pieces for the side of the cod piece. I also need to print a visor mold so I can make a vacuum-formed visor later on. the time is now where I could start to add color. I have all of the 3D printed pieces made and all of the foam pieces made, so now I can start to paint. Now I can't just spray foam with paint, I need to seal it with Plasti-Dip first. Plasti-Dip just gives the paint something to stick to. I also spray it with actual primer, just because the paint I was using had a little bit of trouble sticking evenly across the whole piece. And then once I do both of these things, I could add actual paint. The main green color is botanical green, but there's also some hunter green and some black sections that I'll have to mask off and paint. Once I get all of the colors on, I'll be able to do the weathering and the battle damage. I'll show you how to do that when the time comes, but right now, Plasti-Dip, primer, and paint. Alright, there's just a few colors I need to add. A little bit of hunter green and black sections needed to be masked off and painted on before I can move on. Alright, I still have a little more painting work to do. Right now, all of the pieces look too clean and new for the look that I want. Master Chief's armor is dirty and has lots of scratches and paint chips on it. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use really watered down black acrylic paint, and I'm going to spread it over all the pieces with a brush. I'm going to make sure I get paint in all of the corners and crevices where dirt might normally collect, and then I use a damp rag and dab most of it off, only leaving enough to make it look dirty. After that, I dry brush on silver paint along all of the edges to give the effect of chipped paint, and then I go over the whole thing with a clear coat to protect it. Nearly there. There's one more very important part of the suit I still have to make. It's also the trickiest to make. It's the visor. Now, Master Chief's visor is a very specific shape and color, so you can't just buy a motorcycle visor and glue it in. Well, you can, it would just look a little off. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a clear sheet of PETG plastic and vacuum form it over the mold I made earlier. To do this, I put the plastic in this frame and then I heat it up in the oven. Then I take it out and press it over this box with the mold on top. Then I suck the air out with a shot vac, and that's how I get the shape I need. Then I have to dye the plastic to give it its color and spray it with chrome to make it one way. Alright, this first visor isn't too good, so I'm going to have to make it again. First of all, the plastic I used was too thick, so it was kind of hard to see out of. I also cracked the bottom. I didn't use enough dye, so the color isn't quite right. I smudged some of the chrome at the back. I also warped the visor when I made it because I didn't use support. So this visor isn't too great. I'm going to show you how to make a good one.
Grant the souls I send your way. Find a peace and rest at last. 'Cause they're going down. Yeah, they're going down. You know they're going down. Yeah, they're going down. If they ever thought that they had a shot, they're going to solve the lies they want. Yeah, they're going down. Yeah, they're going down.
I keep a picture of you, but I don't know just what I'd do if I saw you face to face right now. You know I always loved you. If I could stop myself, I would. But there's no easy way to end how I feel and to change what was real. Though we try to fade to black, in the end we come right back. Now that we've come so far, how can we ever start again? Memories would lead us back, instead we just pretend. Now that we've come so far, the love that never ends keeps us home, that leaves us always tearing us apart again.
And now, a quick recap.
Now that we've come so far,
Normally this is the point in the video where I give you feedback on what I've made, but this video is already long enough as it is, so if you're interested, I've linked to the 405th build thread for this project in the video description. You'll be able to see the whole build process, what products I used, where I got them, how much I spent, and what I would do differently if I were to make a project like this again. It's all there for you. Right now I'd like to thank Impact Props and Blake Hull for showing me that making a project like this was even possible through their videos on YouTube. Also, thanks to Art Andrews for making the templates for the foam, to Harry Drake for making the helmet model, and to Maurice Silslak for making the model of the whole suit. All of the models and templates are free to download, and I've linked them all in the video description. If you're feeling inspired to make a project like this yourself, I encourage you to do that. There's no time like the present to get started. I didn't even know what Combat Evolved was until March, and I started making the suit in July, so I was pretty quick to get going. But I have to warn you, projects like this are very expensive and time-consuming. All that means is you have to really want it in order to get it done. 47 days might not seem like a long time, but I built this over the summer of 2020, so I had nothing but time. I practically didn't leave the house for 2 months. I wouldn't be surprised if I had built this project under normal circumstances if it had taken up to 6 months. All that aside, I'm super happy with the suit I managed to create. This was my first time working with foam, so that was a bit scary at first, but eventually I figured it out. If I could sum up what I think of this project in one sentence, I would say, not bad for a first try. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit the like button, and when you want to know when more videos like this are made, then be sure to hit subscribe. Also, I've made some other Halo-y projects if you want to go check those out. You'll be able to see how I made this assault rifle and a light-up energy sword. Alright, this video's gone on long enough. Click one of my other videos, subscribe, I'll see you next time.